1. We're taking a look at a 1960 Plymouth Fury 2 that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller is asking $10,000 for this classic ride. Now, I want to be upfront with you. The seller mentions that this car needs some TLC. It's not in perfect condition, but that's to be expected with a vehicle that's over 60 years old. The important thing is that the seller is being honest about the state of the car, which I appreciate. According to the listing, this Fury has been driven 10,000 miles and features an automatic transmission. The exterior is a sleek black, while the interior is a bold red. It's a gas-powered vehicle that has had 2 owners over the years, and the seller notes that it's been paid off. In the description, the seller simply states, "Plymouth Fury. Car just needs TLC. Unfortunately, we aren't needing it anymore. Offers are acceptable. Just throw an offer." It seems like they're open to negotiation on the price, which could be good news for potential buyers. While the car may need some work, it's still a piece of automotive history. The 1960 Plymouth Fury 2 is an iconic vehicle that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. If you're willing to put in the effort to restore it to its former glory, this could be a great project car. Of course, as with any used vehicle purchase, it's important to do your due diligence. If you're seriously interested in this Fury, I'd recommend going to see it in person and getting a thorough inspection to determine the extent of the work needed. All in all, if you're looking for a classic car with a lot of potential, this 1960 Plymouth Fury 2 might be worth considering. Just be prepared to put in some elbow grease to get it back into top shape. 2. We're checking out a 1981 Chevrolet Corvette that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic sports car for $9,500. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Corvette. The seller mentions that the black exterior and red interior are in excellent shape, which is a huge plus. They also note that it's an automatic transmission and is powered by a 350 V8 engine. The car also features T-tops and power windows, adding to its appeal. However, the seller does mention that the car needs a few items buttoned up, specifically the door and T-top seals. While this might sound like a minor issue, it's important to keep in mind that these types of repairs can be costly if not addressed properly. The good news is that the seller includes the necessary seals with the purchase of the car. Now let's talk about the mileage. This Corvette has been driven 130,000 miles, which is quite a bit for a classic car. However, if the vehicle has been well maintained throughout its life, this mileage shouldn't be a deal breaker. It's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection done by a professional mechanic before making a purchase, especially with a high mileage vehicle. One thing to note is that the seller doesn't mention anything about the car's maintenance history or any recent repairs or upgrades. This is something you'll definitely want to inquire about before making an offer. Overall, this 1981 Chevrolet Corvette seems to be in good condition, with a few minor issues that need to be addressed. The price of $9,500 seems fair for a classic Corvette, especially one with a desirable color combination like black and red. If you're in the market for a vintage sports car and don't mind putting in a little work to get it in top shape, this could be a great option to consider. As always, be sure to do your due diligence before making any big purchases. Ask the seller plenty of questions, get a professional inspection, and trust your gut. With a little bit of effort, you could be the proud owner of a beautiful piece of American automotive history. 3. We're taking a closer look at a 1959 Ford Custom that's currently listed for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller is asking $11,000 for this classic ride. First things first, let's talk about the condition of this Ford Custom. The seller doesn't explicitly mention any major issues or damage, which is a good sign. They do note that the headliner is still intact but needs to be updated, so that's something to keep in mind if you're considering making an offer. Under the hood, this Custom is powered by a 292 Y-block engine, which the seller states is in working condition. The car also features a 3-on-the-tree manual transmission, adding to its vintage charm. One of the biggest concerns with classic cars is rust, but the seller assures potential buyers that there is no rust in the trunk or on the floorboards. This is a huge plus, as rust can be a major headache to deal with and can quickly escalate repair costs. The car has been driven 86,000 miles, which is relatively low for a vehicle of this age. However, it's important to remember that this is still a 60-plus-year-old car, so it's likely to have some wear and tear that comes with age. Aesthetically, this 1959 Ford Custom sports a clean white exterior and a blue interior. The seller doesn't provide any photos of the interior, so that's definitely something you'll want to see in person before making a decision. Overall, this classic Ford Custom seems to be in decent shape, with a few minor issues that are to be expected with a car of this age. The asking price of $11,000 might seem a bit steep at first glance, but it's not uncommon for well-maintained vintage vehicles to command a premium price. As with any used car purchase, it's crucial to do your research and get a thorough inspection before making an offer. Ask the seller plenty of questions about the car's history, maintenance records, and any known issues. If possible, bring along a trusted mechanic to give the car a once-over and identify any potential red flags. 4. We're taking a look at a 1972 Chevrolet Camaro that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller is asking $15,000 or best offer for this classic muscle car. Now, let's dive into the details. This Camaro is a base model equipped with an inline 6-cylinder engine and a 3-speed manual transmission. The seller mentions that the exact mileage is unknown, which is something to keep in mind. The seller does note a few issues with the car. They mention that the timing needs to be adjusted and that it's a hard cold start. This could indicate some engine issues that may need to be addressed. However, the seller also mentions that the car comes with a donor motor and transmission that can be used for spare parts, which could be helpful in addressing any mechanical problems. On the bright side, the seller states that all panels, quarter, floor, etc., have been replaced and that there is no rust on the car. This is a huge plus, as rust can be a major issue with classic cars and can be costly to repair. The car also comes with some additional spare parts in the trunk, such as manuals and doorknobs. The seller mentions that the car has been kept in a shed for the past 10 years, only occasionally being pulled out to drive around the yard. Aesthetically, this Camaro has a red exterior, but the seller doesn't mention the color of the interior. The car is also equipped with manual brakes and manual steering, which is common for cars of this era. Overall, while this 1972 Chevrolet Camaro does have some mechanical issues that need to be addressed, it seems to be a solid base for a restoration project. The lack of rust and the inclusion of spare parts are definite positives. However, it's important to approach this purchase with a realistic mindset. The seller is asking $15,000 or best offer, which may be a bit steep considering the unknown mileage and the need for mechanical work. It's crucial to thoroughly inspect the car in person and to have a clear understanding of the costs associated with any necessary repairs or upgrades. If you're serious about purchasing this Camaro, be sure to ask the seller plenty of questions and to get a professional inspection if possible. With some time, effort, and financial investment, this classic muscle car could be a rewarding project for the right buyer. 5. We're checking out a 1950 Buick Super that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic car for $8,000. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Buick. The seller mentions that the car runs and drives, which is a great sign for a vehicle that's over 70 years old. However, they do note that there is a transmission leak, which is something that will need to be addressed. The seller also points out that the brakes are the original manual system, which means they require more effort to stop the car compared to modern braking systems. On the plus side, the seller states that the car has already been converted to a 12-volt electrical system, which is a common upgrade for classic cars. This can make it easier to find compatible parts and can improve the overall reliability of the vehicle. Aesthetically, this Buick Super is currently in primer, which means it will need a new paint job to really shine. The seller mentions that they recently moved to Florida and need to make room, which could be why they haven't had a chance to finish the exterior. The car has been driven just 27,000 miles, which is incredibly low for a vehicle of this age. This could indicate that the car has been well maintained and hasn't seen a lot of use over the years. Inside, the car features a gray interior that matches the current gray primer exterior. The seller doesn't provide any photos of the interior, so that's something you'll definitely want to see in person before making a decision. Under the hood, this Buick Super is powered by a gasoline engine. But the seller doesn't specify the exact size or configuration. It's equipped with an automatic transmission, which is a nice feature for a car of this era. Overall, this 1950 Buick Super seems to be a solid project car for someone who's willing to put in some work. The transmission leak and manual brakes will need to be addressed, and the car will need a new paint job to really shine. However, the low mileage and 12-volt electrical system are definite positives. The asking price of $8,000 seems reasonable for a classic Buick in this condition, but as with any used car purchase, it's important to do your due diligence. Get a thorough inspection from a trusted mechanic, and be sure to ask the seller plenty of questions about the car's history and any known issues. If you're in the market for a vintage American car with plenty of potential, this 1950 Buick Super could be a great option to consider. Just be prepared to put in some time and effort to get it back to its former glory. 6. We're taking a closer look at a 1964 Chevrolet Corvair that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic car for $12,900. First things first, let's talk about the condition of this Corvair. The seller describes the car as being very close to original, with a nice body and paint job. They also mention that the interior is clean and that the glass and chrome are in very good shape. This is all great news for anyone looking for a well-maintained classic car. Under the hood, this Corvair is equipped with a manual transmission, which is a great feature for those who enjoy a more engaging driving experience. The seller notes that the car runs and drives great, with a smooth clutch, and that it can be driven anywhere. This is a testament to the car's overall mechanical condition. One thing to note is that the seller doesn't specify the exact interior color, but based on the description, it seems to be in good condition as well. The car has been driven just 43,000 miles, which is incredibly low for a vehicle of this age. This could indicate that the car has been well cared for over the years and hasn't seen a lot of use. Aesthetically, this Corvair has a gold exterior that looks to be in great shape based on the seller's description. The seller also mentions that the car has a working radio, which is a nice touch. Interestingly, the seller mentions that they might be open to a trade for an open-top car, such as a T-Bucket, Roadster, Jeep, or Trike. This could be a good opportunity for someone who has one of these vehicles and is looking to trade up to a classic Corvair. Overall, this 1964 Chevrolet Corvair seems to be a very well-maintained and original example of the breed. The low mileage, manual transmission, and clean interior are all great selling points. The asking price of $12,900 might seem a bit high at first glance, but for a car in this condition, it's not unreasonable. As with any used car purchase, it's important to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making an offer. Ask the seller plenty of questions about the car's history, maintenance records, and any known issues. If possible, have a trusted mechanic take a look at the car to identify any potential problems. 7. Let me give you an honest breakdown of this 1985 Ford Mustang that's popping up on Facebook Marketplace. At $5,000, you're looking at a project car with some real potential. The heart of this Mustang is a freshly rebuilt 306 engine with only 15,000 miles on it, which is actually pretty promising. It's got some nice performance upgrades like shorty headers, an Edelbrock intake and carb, and an MSD ignition box. All good stuff for anyone looking to build a performance Mustang. Let's be real about the issues, though. There are quite a few. The T5 transmission grinds going into second gear, needs synchro work, and there's some rust to deal with, especially on those doors. The driver's door has rust through at the seam, and they've got a mismatched hardtop door on the passenger side with wrong glass. The hatch has been rattle-canned, spray-painted, and the interior needs work with missing trim pieces. On the plus side, it's got vision wheels with decent front tires, though the rears need attention. and the seller's including some replacement parts like new window glass and convertible doors. For $5,000, you're getting a T-top Mustang that runs, but needs TLC. It's not a show car by any means, but if you're handy with tools and looking for a project car with good bones, that rebuilt engine is a major plus. This could be worth considering. Just go in knowing you'll need to invest more time and money to get it where you want it. The seller seems pretty straightforward about the car's condition, which is always a good sign. They're clearly aware of its issues and aren't trying to hide them. 8. We're taking a look at a 1979 Chrysler Cordoba that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic car for $12,500. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Cordoba. The seller describes it as a beautiful classic car that runs and drives great. They also mention that it has cold AC, which is a huge plus for any classic car. However, they do note that the paint is faded in some spots, which is something to keep in mind. One of the biggest selling points of this Cordoba is the low mileage. With just 58,000 miles on the odometer, this car has been driven an average of less than 1,500 miles per year since it was new. This could indicate that the car has been well maintained and hasn't seen a lot of use over the years. The car is equipped with an automatic transmission, which is a nice feature for those who prefer a more relaxed driving experience. It's powered by a gasoline engine, but the seller doesn't specify the exact size or configuration. Aesthetically, this Cordoba has a brown exterior and a beige interior. The seller doesn't provide any photos of the interior, so that's something you'll definitely want to see in person before making a decision. The seller mentions that the car has had 2 owners over the years and that it's been paid off, which is good news for potential buyers. Now let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $12,500, which might seem a bit high for a car with faded paint. However, the low mileage and overall condition of the car could justify the price for the right buyer. Interestingly, the seller mentions that they have a truck and trailer and are willing to transport the car anywhere in the USA for just the cost of the round trip. This could be a great option for someone who's interested in the car but doesn't live in the South Texas area. The seller also notes that they want the car to be in good hands, which is a nice sentiment. It's clear that they have a lot of love for this classic Cordoba. Overall, this 1979 Chrysler Cordoba seems to be a well-maintained classic car with low mileage and some great features like cold AC. The faded paint is a bit of a drawback, but it's not uncommon for a car of this age to have some cosmetic issues. 9. We're checking out a 1984 Cadillac Eldorado that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic luxury car for $5,000 or best offer. First things first, let's talk about the condition of this Eldorado. The seller describes it as highway ready, which suggests that it's in good driving condition. They also mention that the AC blows ice cold, which is a huge plus for any classic car. The car also has a clean blue title and up-to-date tags, which is good news for potential buyers. Under the hood, this Eldorado is equipped with an automatic transmission, which is a common feature for luxury cars of this era. The seller doesn't specify the exact engine size or configuration, but Eldorados from this year typically came with a 4.1L V8 engine. One of the most impressive aspects of this car is the low mileage. With just 35,000 miles on the odometer, this Eldorado has been driven an average of less than 1,000 miles per year since it was new. This could indicate that the car has been well maintained and hasn't seen a lot of use over the years. Aesthetically, this Eldorado has a gray exterior and a brown interior. The seller doesn't provide any photos of the interior, so that's something you'll definitely want to see in person before making a decision. The seller mentions that the car has fresh LED headlights, which is a nice modern upgrade. They also note that the car has dog meat Vogue tires, which is a bit of an odd description. It's unclear exactly what they mean by this, but it's something to keep in mind and potentially ask the seller about. Now, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $5,000 or best offer, which seems like a fair price for a classic Eldorado in this condition. However, as with any used car purchase, it's important to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making an offer. It's also worth noting that the seller's description is a bit brief and lacks some important details. For example, they don't mention anything about the car's maintenance history or any recent repairs or upgrades. This is something you'll definitely want to ask the seller about before making a decision. Overall, this 1984 Cadillac Eldorado seems to be a solid classic car with low mileage and some nice features like cold AC and fresh LED headlights. The asking price of $5,000 or best offer seems reasonable, but it's important to approach this purchase with a critical eye and get all the necessary information from the seller. 10. We're taking a closer look at a 1985 Lincoln Town Car that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic luxury car for $9,700. First off, let's talk about the condition of this town car. The seller describes it as a beautiful, luxurious Lincoln Town Car Signature Series, which suggests that it's a high-end model in great condition. They also mention that it's been garage kept and meticulously maintained, which is a huge plus for any classic car. One of the most impressive aspects of this car is the low mileage. With just 86,810 miles on the odometer, this town car has been driven an average of less than 2,500 miles per year since it was new. This is incredibly low mileage for a car that's over 35 years old and could indicate that it's been very well cared for. The seller also notes that this town car has had only one owner, who bought it brand new from a Lincoln Mercury dealership in San Antonio. This is great news for potential buyers, as single-owner cars are often better maintained and have a more complete service history. Mechanically, the seller states that the car runs and drives like a dream with no leaks or issues. They describe it as a beautiful time machine, which suggests that it's in excellent condition inside and out. The car is equipped with an automatic transmission and is powered by a gasoline engine. The seller doesn't specify the exact engine size or configuration, but town cars from this era typically came with a 5.0L V8 engine. Aesthetically, this town car has a blue exterior and an off-white interior. The seller mentions that the plush leather seats are in amazing condition, which is a testament to how well the car has been maintained over the years. The seller also notes that the car has power everything, which is a common feature for luxury cars of this era. In terms of the sale, the seller mentions that the car has a clean Texas title and encourages potential buyers to buy it local before I list it on eBay nationwide. They also state that there's no funny business, scams, or passcodes, which suggests that they're a straightforward and trustworthy seller. Overall, this 1985 Lincoln Town Car seems to be an exceptional classic car that's been very well maintained over the years. The low mileage, single-owner history, and excellent condition inside and out make it a rare find. 11. We're taking a look at a 1984 Pontiac Fiero that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic sports car for $7,500 or best offer. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Fiero. The seller describes it as being in 10-10 condition, which is a bold claim, but suggests that the car is in excellent shape. They also mention that it runs and drives great, with all original parts and no significant damage or problems. One of the most impressive aspects of this car is the low mileage. With just 77,000 miles on the odometer, this Fiero has been driven an average of less than 2,000 miles per year since it was new. This is incredibly low mileage for a car that's nearly 40 years old and could indicate that it's been very well cared for. The seller also notes that this Fiero has had only 2 owners and that it's been family-owned. This is great news for potential buyers, as it suggests that the car has been well maintained and has a known history. Mechanically, the seller states that the car runs and drives great, with power everything and all features working properly. They also mention that the AC and heat work great, which is a huge plus for any classic car. The car is equipped with a manual transmission and is powered by a gasoline engine. The seller doesn't specify the exact engine size or configuration, but Fieros from this era typically came with a 2.5L 4-cylinder engine. Aesthetically, this Fiero has a red exterior and a black interior. The seller doesn't provide any photos of the interior, but they do mention that everything works and that the car comes with 2 keys. The seller also notes that the tires probably have only 1,000 miles on them, which suggests that they've been recently replaced. In terms of the sale, the seller is asking $7,500 or best offer and is willing to trade for something newer if it's worth it. They also mention that they're willing to send more pictures to serious buyers and ask that potential buyers don't lowball them. Overall, this 1984 Pontiac Fiero seems to be an exceptional classic car that's been very well maintained over the years. The low mileage, 2-owner history, and excellent condition inside and out make it a rare find. 12. We're taking a closer look at a 1965 Ford Galaxy that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic car for $10,000 or best offer. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Galaxy. The seller describes it as a project car that needs very little to be finished up. They mention that most of the parts are there and just need to be installed. This suggests that the car is not in perfect condition, but is well on its way to being a fully restored classic. The seller also notes that the car is almost rust-free, which is a huge plus for any classic car. They mention that it was painted about 2 years ago and that they believe they are the second owner. In terms of mechanical upgrades, this Galaxy has a lot to offer. It has a new remanufactured 351 roller cam block with a serpentine belt system, as well as a Ford AOD transmission with a heavy-duty 16-row transcooler and TCI outlaw shifter. The seller notes that the drive shaft still needs to be fitted or a new one made. The car also has a new fuel system, including a new tank, sender, and 6 fuel lines and fittings. It has Hotchkiss control arms, new front Moog suspension, and a lead front disc brake conversion kit that's partially installed. Other upgrades include a Champion aluminum radiator, new Procar front bucket seats, the back seats still need to be reupholstered in black, a leather-wrapped dash and gauge pad with digital IntelliFlex gauges, and new rims and tires. The seller also mentions that the car has a shaved firewall to add a vintage or Restomod air system in the future. In terms of the sale, the seller notes that they don't really want to sell the car, but have too much other stuff going on to continue with it at the moment. They're asking $10,000 or best offer. Overall, this 1965 Ford Galaxy seems to be a solid project car that's well on its way to being a fully restored classic. It has a lot of mechanical upgrades and new parts, as well as a rust-free body and fresh paint. The asking price of $10,000 or best offer might seem a bit high for a project car, but given the amount of work and new parts that have gone into it, it's not unreasonable. As with any used car purchase, it's important to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making an offer. 13. We're taking a look at a 1966 Plymouth Barracuda that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic muscle car for $6,500. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Barracuda. The seller doesn't provide a lot of details about the overall condition of the car, but they do mention that it has no rust, which is a huge plus for any classic car. They also note that it has a clean title and no significant damage or problems. Under the hood, this Barracuda is powered by a slant 6 engine, which was a common engine option for Plymouths of this era. The seller mentions that the car runs, stops, and shifts great, which suggests that the engine and transmission are in good working order. The car is equipped with an automatic transmission, which makes it a great option for those who prefer a more relaxed driving experience. In terms of recent upgrades, the seller notes that the car has new tires and exhaust. This suggests that the car has been well maintained and has received some recent attention. Aesthetically, this Barracuda has a blue exterior and a matching blue interior. The seller doesn't provide any photos of the interior, so that's something you'll definitely want to see in person before making a decision. The car has been driven 109,000 miles, which is relatively low for a classic car of this age. This could indicate that the car has been well cared for over the years. Overall, this 1966 Plymouth Barracuda seems to be a solid classic muscle car that's in good condition. The lack of rust, clean title, and recent upgrades all suggest that it's been well maintained. The asking price of $6,500 seems reasonable for a Barracuda in this condition, especially given the recent upgrades and low mileage. However, as with any used car purchase, it's important to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making an offer. It's worth noting that the seller's description is a bit brief, so there may be some additional details or issues that aren't mentioned. If you're seriously interested in this car, be sure to ask the seller plenty of questions and request more photos if needed. 14. We're taking a closer look at a 1966 Pontiac Grand Prix that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic muscle car for $12,000, but they're open to offers and possible trades. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Grand Prix. The seller describes it as a running and driving car that's not necessarily a project, but does need a little love. They mention that it has small pinholes on the right rear fender and some issues with the bottom right seals on the rear view windshield, but they've provided pictures to show these issues. The seller also notes that the brakes are a little tough and need attention, but emphasizes that the car has no issues running and driving overall. Under the hood, this Grand Prix is powered by a 400 big block engine with headers and a mild cam. This suggests that the car has some performance upgrades and should have plenty of power on tap. The car is equipped with an automatic transmission, which makes it a great option for those who prefer a more relaxed driving experience. Aesthetically, this Grand Prix has a gray exterior and a green interior. The seller mentions that all of the original trim is present and that the interior is all there, which is a huge plus for any classic car. The seller also notes that this Grand Prix is the closest thing you're going to get to a GTO without breaking the bank, which suggests that it has a similar style and performance to the more expensive and sought-after GTO model. In terms of the sale, the seller is asking $12,000, but is open to offers and possible trades of equal value or a little money on top. They specifically mention that they're looking for 30s, 50s model two-door cars that are running. Overall, this 1966 Pontiac Grand Prix seems to be a solid classic muscle car that's in good running and driving condition, but does need a little bit of work to address some minor issues. The performance upgrades and original trim are definitely selling points, and the comparison to the GTO is sure to catch the eye of any classic car enthusiast. 15. We're taking a look at a 1979 Ford Granada that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic car for $10,000 or best offer, and they're also open to possible partial trades. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Granada. The seller mentions that it has no significant damage or problems and has a clean title, which is always a good sign. They also note that the vehicle is paid off, so there won't be any outstanding liens or financing issues to deal with. Under the hood, this Granada is powered by a remanufactured inline six-cylinder engine, which should provide plenty of reliable power. The seller mentions that the car has received a number of recent upgrades, including a new carburetor, fuel pump, and ignition control module, as well as a new gas tank and a full tune-up. This suggests that the car has been well maintained and should be in good mechanical condition. The car is equipped with an automatic transmission, which makes it a great option for those who prefer a more relaxed driving experience. The seller also notes that the car has working air conditioning, which is a huge plus for any classic car. Aesthetically, this Granada has a white exterior and a blue interior. The seller doesn't provide any photos of the interior, so that's something you'll definitely want to see in person before making a decision. The car has been driven 159,000 miles, which is relatively high for a classic car. However, given the recent upgrades and maintenance, this shouldn't necessarily be a deal breaker. It's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection from a trusted mechanic before making a purchase, regardless of the mileage. The seller mentions that the car has had 3 or more owners over the years, which is not uncommon for a vehicle of this age. It's always a good idea to ask for any available service records or documentation to get a better sense of the car's history. Overall, this 1979 Ford Granada seems to be a solid classic car that's in good mechanical condition, with a number of recent upgrades and maintenance items. The high mileage and multiple previous owners are worth noting, but shouldn't necessarily be deal breakers if the car checks out otherwise. The asking price of $10,000 or best offer might seem a bit high for a Granada of this age and mileage, but the recent upgrades and clean title do add value. As with any used car purchase, it's important to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making an offer. 16. We're checking out a 1953 Buick Special that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic car for $8,500. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Buick. The seller's description is very brief, only mentioning that the car has a straight 8.3 on the tree transmission. This refers to the car's inline 8-cylinder engine and its 3-speed manual transmission with a column-mounted shifter. While this is an interesting and desirable feature for a classic car enthusiast, it doesn't give us a lot of information about the overall condition of the vehicle. Without more details or photos, it's difficult to say whether this Buick is in good shape or if it needs significant work. The seller doesn't mention anything about the car's mechanical condition, body, interior, or any recent repairs or upgrades. This lack of information is a bit concerning and suggests that potential buyers will need to do their own thorough inspection to determine the car's true condition. That being said, there are a few other details provided in the listing that are worth noting. The car has an automatic transmission, which is a bit unusual for a Buick of this era. It's possible that this is a typo or an error in the listing, given the mention of the 3-on-the-tree manual transmission. Aesthetically, this Buick Special has a red exterior and a green interior, which could be a cool and classic color combination if the car is in good shape. However, without photos, it's impossible to say for sure. The seller also notes that the vehicle is paid off, which is a plus for potential buyers as it means there won't be any outstanding liens or financing issues to deal with. Overall, while the idea of a 1953 Buick Special with a straight 8 engine and a 3-on-the-tree manual transmission is certainly appealing to classic car enthusiasts, the lack of detailed information or photos in this listing is a major red flag. The seller's brief description simply isn't enough to give potential buyers a good sense of the car's condition or value. The asking price of $8,500 could be reasonable for a well-maintained and largely original Buick Special of this era. But without more information, it's impossible to say for sure. If you're seriously interested in this car, you'll definitely want to reach out to the seller and ask for more details and photos. A thorough in-person inspection from a qualified mechanic is also a must before making any kind of offer. 17. We're taking a groovy look at a 1978 Chevrolet Nova that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this funky fresh ride for just $2,800, and they're ready to make a deal. Cash is king, so if you've got the green, this green machine could be yours. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Nova. The seller mentions that it's completely stock and super reliable, which is always a good sign. They also note that the vehicle has no significant damage or problems and comes with a clean title. The car has been driven 112,000 miles, which is relatively low for a vehicle of this age, and suggests that it's been well maintained over the years. Under the hood, this Nova is packing the original Chevy 305 engine and a turbo 350 transmission, paired with a 2-barrel carburetor. The seller playfully notes that this setup gives you one extra barrel of groove most people only dream of. While we can't verify the groove factor, it's clear that this is a classic powertrain combo that should provide plenty of reliable performance. The seller also mentions a long list of recent upgrades and maintenance items, including brand new tires, spark plugs, wires, and a distributor cap. The brakes have been given some love too, with a new master cylinder and rebuilt rear brakes with new shoes, springs, and wheel cylinders. The parking brake cables have also been replaced, so you can safely get your funk on without rolling away. But that's not all. This Nova has also been treated to a new MagnaFlow catalytic converter and muffler, ensuring that it's running clean and sounding mean. The seller has even installed dual hella horns, so you can turn heads and make them listen. Other upgrades include a new radiator, water pump, underbody lights, and fresh Sylvania Silver Star headlights, plus a new headlight switch. All the markers taillights, and dash lights have been replaced too, so this Nova is ready to shine like the funky diamond it is. Aesthetically, this Nova is rocking a green-on-green color scheme that's sure to stand out from the crowd. The seller doesn't provide any photos of the interior, so that's something you'll definitely want to check out in person before making a decision. Overall, this 1978 Chevrolet Nova seems to be a solid and well-maintained classic car with a ton of recent upgrades and a funky, fresh attitude. The low mileage and clean title are definitely points in its favor, and the list of new parts and maintenance items suggests that it's been well cared for. 18. We're taking a look at a 1966 Ford Thunderbird that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller, who is listing the car for their dad, has this classic T-Bird priced at $8,000. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Thunderbird. The seller describes it as a super clean car that runs great. This suggests that the vehicle has been well maintained and is in good mechanical shape. The low mileage of just 58,000 miles also supports the idea that this T-Bird has been well cared for over the years. The seller mentions that the car comes with all of its chrome trim, which is currently located in the trunk. This is a great sign, as many classic cars are missing pieces of trim or have damaged or pitted chrome. Having all the trim intact and in good condition can make a big difference in the overall appearance and value of a vintage vehicle. Under the hood, this Thunderbird is packing a 390 cubic inch V8 engine. This was a popular and powerful engine option for the '66 T-Bird and should provide plenty of smooth performance and classic Ford muscle car sound. The car is equipped with an automatic transmission, which was a common choice for Thunderbirds of this era. This makes it a great option for cruising or daily driving, as it doesn't require the extra effort of a manual transmission. Aesthetically, this Thunderbird is finished in a sleek black exterior color. The seller doesn't mention the interior color or provide any photos, so that's something you'll want to inquire about and see in person before making a decision. Overall, based on the seller's description, this 1966 Ford Thunderbird seems to be a well-maintained and largely original example of a classic American luxury car. The low mileage, clean condition, and complete trim all suggest that it's been treated with care over the years. The asking price of $8,000 seems fairly reasonable for a T-Bird in this condition, especially if the interior is in good shape and matches the overall quality of the exterior. However, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection from a trusted mechanic before making an offer. It's worth noting that the seller is located in Tucson, Arizona, which could be a plus for potential buyers. Cars from dry desert climates like Arizona often have less rust and weather-related wear than those from wetter or saltier areas. 19. We're checking out a 1968 Dodge Dart that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has this classic Mopar listed at $6,200 or best offer. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Dart. The seller mentions that it runs and drives, which is always a good starting point. They also list a number of recent maintenance items and upgrades, including a new master cylinder, tires, thermostat and housing, fuel pump, passenger side motor mount, and fuel tank with sending unit. This suggests that the car has been well maintained and that the seller has invested some money into keeping it in good mechanical shape. However, the seller does note that this Dart has a vinyl top and that there is rust around and on the roof as a result. Rust is always a concern with classic cars, and it's important to get a good look at the extent of the damage before making a purchase. The seller gets points for being upfront about this issue, but it's something that potential buyers will definitely want to take into account when considering the price. Under the hood, this Dart is equipped with a 225 cubic inch slant 6 engine. This was a common and reliable engine option for Darts of this era, known for its durability and fuel efficiency. The seller mentions that the car has an automatic transmission, which makes it a great choice for cruising or daily driving. Aesthetically, this Dart is finished in a green exterior color with a black interior. The seller doesn't provide any photos of the interior, so that's something you'll want to check out in person before making a decision. The car has been driven just 79,707 miles, which is relatively low for a vehicle of this age. This could be a good sign that it's been well cared for over the years. The seller also notes that the car has a clean title and current registration in their name, which is always a plus. This means that there shouldn't be any major issues with transferring ownership or getting the car legally on the road. Overall, this 1968 Dodge Dart seems to be a solid classic car with a lot of potential. The recent maintenance and upgrades are definitely a point in its favor, and the low mileage and clean title are also good signs. However, the rust issue with the vinyl top is definitely something to keep in mind, and it may affect the overall value of the car. 20. We're taking a look at a 1970 Mercury Cougar XR7 that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller, Rod Hernandez, has this classic muscle car listed at $9,000. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Cougar. The seller mentions that the car is about 70–80% done, and that it has the potential to be a really nice car with a bit more work. They note that there aren't too many Cougars out there, which is true. These cars are relatively rare compared to some other muscle cars of the era. The seller provides a helpful list of pros and cons for this Cougar. On the plus side, it has a number of recent upgrades, including an MSD distributor, new spark plugs and ignition wires, a rebuilt C4 transmission, a new roof, windshield and back window, and new shock absorbers and tires. The gauges are also said to work, and the car has Mustang front seats and a back seat that are in good condition. All the lights are also reported to be functional. However, there are a few issues to be aware of. The seller notes that the rear main seal leaks, which is a common problem on these cars and can be a bit of a hassle to fix. The car also needs new control arms, and the carburetor, a 600 CFM 4-barrel, needs to be rebuilt. Additionally, the master window switch for the electric windows needs to be replaced. Under the hood, this Cougar is equipped with its original 351 Windsor V8 engine. This was a popular and powerful engine option for the Cougar and should provide plenty of classic muscle car performance. The car has an automatic transmission, which makes it a great choice for cruising or daily driving. It's finished in a red exterior color with a black interior, which is a classic and attractive color combo for a muscle car. The seller mentions that they are moving to an apartment, which is why they've decided to sell the car. They also note that the car has had 2 owners and comes with a clean title, which is always a good sign. Overall, this 1970 Mercury Cougar XR7 seems to be a solid project car with a lot of potential. It has a number of recent upgrades and is said to be mostly complete, but does have a few issues that will need to be addressed. The leaky rear main seal and the need for a carb rebuild and new control arms are the most significant of these and could add some cost to getting the car into top shape. The asking price of $9,000 seems a bit high for a Cougar in this condition, especially given the need for additional work. However, the rarity of these cars and the recent upgrades could make it a worthwhile purchase for the right buyer.